In the vast expanse of the galaxy, countless alien species had formed alliances and rivalries, each vying for power and control over the precious resources scattered throughout the stars. Among these advanced civilizations, the human race was a relatively new player, having only recently ventured beyond the confines of their home planet, Earth. The humans' technology, while impressive by their own standards, was considered primitive and inferior compared to the advanced weaponry and spacecraft of the alien races. Many of the alien species looked upon humanity with disdain, believing them to be weak and unworthy of a place among the galactic powers. One such species was the Zorgaxians, a race of fierce warriors known for their arrogance and their love of conquest. Led by the ruthless Admiral Zorgax, the Zorgaxians had amassed a massive armada comprised of ships from various conquered worlds. Their fleet was a force to be reckoned with, and they had set their sights on expanding their empire even further. It was during a routine patrol near the edges of human-controlled space that Admiral Zorgax's armada encountered a small fleet of human ships. The human vessels were sleek and streamlined, but their size paled in comparison to the hulking warships of the Zorgaxian fleet. Upon seeing the human ships, Admiral Zorgax let out a bellowing laugh, his voice echoing through the command center of his flagship. "Look at these pitiful creatures," he sneered, his eyes narrowing as he studied the holographic display before him. "They dare to challenge us with their tiny fleet." The other Zorgaxian officers joined in their admiral's laughter, their voices filled with mockery and derision. They had heard tales of the humans' supposed bravery, but to them, it seemed like nothing more than foolish bravado. Admiral Zorgax leaned back in his command chair, a cruel smile playing across his lips. "Open a communication channel," he ordered, his voice dripping with contempt. "Let us see what these humans have to say for themselves." As the communication link was established, the face of a human woman appeared on the view screen. She was young, with piercing blue eyes and short, dark hair that framed her angular features. Her expression was calm and composed, despite the overwhelming odds she and her fleet faced. "This is Captain Ilara Vance of the Earth Defense Fleet." The woman spoke, her voice clear and confident. "We come in peace and seek to establish diplomatic relations with your people." Admiral Zorgax let out another laugh, his eyes filled with malice. "Peace," he scoffed, leaning forward in his chair. "You humans are even more foolish than I thought. Look around you, Captain Vance. Your tiny fleet is no match for the might of the Zorgaxian armada. Surrender now, and perhaps we will show mercy." Captain Vance's expression remained unchanged, her blue eyes locking with Admiral Zorgax. "I'm afraid surrender is not an option, Admiral," she replied, her voice unwavering. "We may be few in number, but we will defend ourselves and our allies with everything we have." The Zorgaxian officers erupted in laughter once more, their voices filling the command center. They had heard such words before, from countless species who had dared to stand against them. In the end, they had all fallen before the might of the Zorgaxian armada. Admiral Zorgax leaned back in his chair, his smile widening. "Very well, Captain Vance," he said, his voice filled with mock sincerity. "If it is a fight you want, then a fight you shall have. Prepare to be destroyed." With those words, the communication link was severed, and the Zorgaxian fleet began to advance on the human ships. The alien armada moved with predatory grace, their weapon systems charging as they prepared to unleash their fury upon the tiny human fleet. But as the first volleys of fire erupted between the two fleets, something unexpected happened. The human ships, despite their small size, proved to be incredibly agile and maneuverable, darting in and out of the Zorgaxian formations with ease. Their weapons, while not as numerous as those of the alien ships, were highly accurate and packed a surprising punch. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the humans were not the weak and primitive species the Zorgaxians had believed them to be. They fought with a tenacity and skill that caught the alien armada off guard, and slowly but surely, the tide of the battle began to turn in their favor. Admiral Zorgax watched in disbelief as his ships were pushed back, their hulls scorched and battered by the relentless human assault. He had underestimated these creatures, and now he was paying the price for his arrogance. The battle was far from over, but one thing was certain: the humans had proven themselves to be a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would never be the same again. As the battle raged on, the human fleet, led by the brilliant strategist Captain Ilara Vance, remained calm and composed in the face of the alien Armada's relentless assault. Despite the overwhelming odds stacked against them, the human ships fought with a tenacity and determination that surprised even the most seasoned Zorgaxian warriors. Captain Vance stood on the bridge of her flagship, her eyes fixed on the tactical display before her. She watched as her ships danced around the Zorgaxian vessels, their movements precise and coordinated, like a well-rehearsed ballet. The human weapons, while not as numerous as those of the alien ships, were highly advanced and packed a punch that belied their size. As the battle continued, Captain Vance realized that the key to victory lay not in brute force, but in outsmarting their opponents. She had studied the Zorgaxians' tactics and had developed a strategy that would exploit their weaknesses and turn the tide of the battle in humanity's favor. With a few quick commands, Captain Vance ordered her ships to break formation and scatter, forcing the Zorgaxian fleet to divide their attention and firepower. The human vessels then regrouped and launched a series of coordinated strikes, targeting the enemy ships' weak points with surgical precision. The Zorgaxian ships, caught off guard by the unexpected tactic, struggled to mount an effective defense. Their shields buckled under the onslaught, and their hulls were scorched by the searing heat of the human weapons. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Zorgax watched in disbelief as his once mighty armada was pushed back, their numbers dwindling with each passing moment. He had underestimated the humans, and now he was paying the price for his arrogance. In a desperate attempt to turn the tide of the battle, Admiral Zorgax ordered his ships to focus their fire on the human flagship, hoping to take out Captain Vance and break the humans' resolve. The Zorgaxian vessels unleashed a barrage of missiles and energy beams, their weapons cutting through the void of space like deadly arrows. But Captain Vance was ready for them. With a few quick commands, she ordered her ship to take evasive action, weaving through the incoming fire with graceful agility. The human flagship's shields held firm, absorbing the brunt of the Zorgaxian assault, while the rest of the human fleet continued to press their advantage. As the battle wore on, it became clear that the Zorgaxians were no match for the humans' superior tactics and technology. Their ships were being picked off one by one, their once proud armada reduced to a shadow of its former self. In a final act of desperation, Admiral Zorgax ordered his remaining ships to retreat, hoping to regroup and mount a counterattack. But it was too late. The human fleet, emboldened by their victory, pursued the fleeing Zorgaxians, their weapons firing with relentless precision. The Zorgaxian ships, their shields depleted and their hulls battered, stood little chance against the human onslaught. One by one, they were destroyed, their crews consumed by the unforgiving vacuum of space. As the last Zorgaxian ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, a cheer erupted across the human fleet. They had done the impossible, defeating a vastly superior enemy through sheer skill and determination. On the bridge of her flagship, Captain Vance allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. She knew that this was only the beginning, that there would be many more battles to come. But for now, she could take pride in the fact that her fleet had proven themselves to be more than a match for the alien armadas that had once mocked them. As news of the human victory spread throughout the galaxy, the other alien races took notice. They had once dismissed the humans as weak and primitive, but now they were forced to reckon with the fact that a new power had emerged on the galactic stage. The Zorgaxians, once feared and respected, were now a laughingstock, their defeat at the hands of the humans a source of endless humiliation. They would not forget this insult, and they would stop at nothing to avenge their loss. But for now, the humans could celebrate their victory, secure in the knowledge that they had taken their first steps towards becoming a true galactic power. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the humans would not be underestimated again. As the battle between the human fleet and the Zorgaxian armada raged on, it became increasingly clear that the humans were more than holding their own against their alien adversaries. The advanced technology and tactical prowess of the human ships had caught the Zorgaxians completely off guard, and they were now struggling to mount an effective defense against the relentless human assault. On the bridge of the human flagship, Captain Ilara Vance watched with a mixture of pride and determination as her ships continued to outmaneuver and outgun the Zorgaxian vessels. She knew that every moment counted, and that even the slightest mistake could turn the tide of the battle against them. As the minutes ticked by, the Zorgaxian ships began to falter, their shields failing and their hulls buckling under the sustained fire of the human weapons. Admiral Zorgax, watching from the bridge of his own flagship, grew increasingly frustrated and desperate. In a last-ditch effort to turn the battle in his favor, Admiral Zorgax ordered his ships to focus their fire on the human flagship, hoping to take out Captain Vance and break the humans' resolve. The Zorgaxian vessels unleashed a barrage of missiles and energy beams, their weapons cutting through the void of space like deadly arrows. But Captain Vance was ready for them. With lightning-fast reflexes, she ordered her ship to take evasive action, weaving through the incoming fire with graceful agility. The human flagship's shields held firm, absorbing the brunt of the Zorgaxian assault, while the rest of the human fleet continued to press their advantage. As the battle wore on, the Zorgaxians grew increasingly desperate. Admiral Zorgax, in a fit of rage, ordered his ships to ram the human vessels, hoping to take them out in a blaze of glory. But even this tactic proved futile, as the human ships deftly maneuvered out of the way, leaving the Zorgaxian vessels to collide with each other in a devastating display of destruction. Throughout it all, Captain Vance remained calm and focused, her mind racing as she analyzed the battlefield and planned her next move. She knew that the Zorgaxians were not to be underestimated, and that even a momentary lapse in concentration could spell disaster for her fleet. As the hours ticked by, the human fleet continued to push forward, their weapons firing with relentless precision. The Zorgaxian ships, their numbers dwindling and their morale shattered, began to retreat, desperate to escape the human onslaught. But Captain Vance was not about to let them off so easily. With a few quick commands, she ordered her ships to pursue the fleeing Zorgaxians, their weapons locked and loaded. The human vessels closed in on their prey, their engines roaring as they pushed themselves to the limit. In the end, it was no contest. The Zorgaxian ships, their shields depleted and their hulls battered, stood little chance against the human fleet. One by one, they were picked off, their crews consumed by the unforgiving vacuum of space. As the last Zorgaxian ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, a cheer erupted across the human fleet. They had done the impossible, defeating a vastly superior enemy through sheer skill and determination. On the bridge of her flagship, Captain Vance allowed herself a moment of relief. She knew that the battle was far from over, that there would be many more challenges to come. But for now, she could take pride in the fact that her fleet had proven themselves to be more than a match for the alien armadas that had once mocked them. As news of the human victory spread throughout the galaxy, the other alien races took notice. They had once dismissed the humans as weak and primitive, but now they were forced to reckon with the fact that a new power had emerged on the galactic stage. The Zorgaxians, once feared and respected, were now a laughingstock, their defeat at the hands of the humans a source of endless humiliation. They would not forget this insult, and they would stop at nothing to avenge their loss. But for now, the humans could celebrate their victory, secure in the knowledge that they had taken their first steps towards becoming a true galactic power. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the humans would not be underestimated again. As the battle between the human fleet and the Zorgaxian armada reached its climax, it became increasingly clear that the tide was turning in favor of the humans. The superior strategies and advanced weaponry of the human ships had proven to be more than a match for the once mighty Zorgaxian fleet, and now the alien forces were in full retreat. On the bridge of the human flagship, Captain Ilara Vance watched with a sense of grim satisfaction as the Zorgaxian ships fled before her fleet. She knew that this was a momentous victory, not just for her own crew, but for the entire human race. For too long, the alien races of the galaxy had looked down upon humanity, dismissing them as weak and primitive. But now, the humans had proven themselves to be a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would never be the same again. As the last of the Zorgaxian ships disappeared into the void of space, Captain Vance turned to her crew, a smile spreading across her face. "Well done, everyone," she said, her voice filled with pride. "We've shown the galaxy what humanity is capable of, and we've struck a blow for freedom and justice that will be felt for generations to come." The crew erupted in cheers, their voices echoing through the halls of the flagship. They had been through hell, fighting against impossible odds and facing an enemy that had seemed invincible. But through their courage, their skill, and their unwavering determination, they had emerged victorious. And now, they could finally breathe a sigh of relief. But even as the humans celebrated their victory, news of their triumph was spreading throughout the galaxy. On distant worlds, in the halls of alien governments and the boardrooms of interstellar corporations, the news was met with a mixture of shock, disbelief, and fear. For the alien races that had once looked upon humanity with disdain, the idea that the humans could have defeated the mighty Zorgaxian Armada was almost too much to bear. Many refused to believe it at first, dismissing the reports as mere propaganda or wishful thinking. But as more and more evidence emerged, as the shattered remains of Zorgaxian ships were found drifting through space, and the survivors of the battle began to tell their tales, the truth could no longer be denied. In the days and weeks that followed, the galactic balance of power began to shift. The alien races that had once been the undisputed masters of the stars now found themselves facing a new reality, one in which humanity was no longer a mere footnote in the annals of galactic history, but a rising power that could no longer be ignored. Some of the alien races, recognizing the changing tides, began to reach out to the humans, seeking to forge new alliances and partnerships. Others, more stubborn and set in their ways, chose to double down on their hostility, seeing the humans as a threat to their own power and prestige. But regardless of how the alien races reacted, one thing was clear: the galaxy had changed, and there was no going back. The humans had proven themselves to be more than just upstarts or primitives, but a force to be reckoned with, a species that could hold its own against the mightiest of foes. As for Admiral Zorgax, the once proud commander of the Zorgaxian Armada, his fate was sealed the moment his ship was crippled by the human fleet. Fleeing the battle with the tattered remains of his once mighty force, he knew that he would be forever remembered as the one who had underestimated the humans, the one who had led his people to a humiliating defeat. But even as he fled, Admiral Zorgax could not help but feel a grudging respect for his human adversaries. They had proven themselves to be worthy opponents, a species that had earned their place among the stars through blood, sweat, and tears. And so, as the galaxy watched in awe and disbelief, the human fleet returned home to Earth, their mission accomplished and their place in history secure. They had shown the galaxy what humanity was capable of, and they had set the stage for a new era of exploration, discovery, and adventure. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the humans would never be underestimated again. In the aftermath of the human fleet's stunning victory over the Zorgaxian Armada, the galaxy was left reeling. The once dominant alien races, who had long viewed humanity as a mere footnote in the annals of galactic history, were now forced to confront the reality of a new power rising among the stars. For the leaders of the Alien Alliance, the news of the human triumph was particularly troubling. They had long relied on the strength of the Zorgaxians to maintain their grip on power, and now, with their most powerful ally humiliated and defeated, they found themselves in a precarious position. Desperate to contain the growing influence of humanity, the Alien Alliance dispatched a diplomatic envoy to Earth, hoping to negotiate a settlement that would limit human expansion and access to advanced technology. The envoy, a cunning and ruthless negotiator known as Ambassador Zolek, arrived on Earth with a mandate to bring the humans to heel, by any means necessary. But the humans were not so easily cowed. Captain Ilara Vance, now hailed as a hero for her role in the Great Victory, was tasked with representing humanity in the negotiations. She knew that the fate of her species hung in the balance, and she was determined to fight for the rights and freedoms of all humans, no matter the cost. As the negotiations began, it quickly became clear that the two sides were far apart. Ambassador Zolek, speaking on behalf of the Alien Alliance, demanded that humanity agree to strict limits on their expansion and access to technology, essentially relegating them to a second-class status within the galactic community. Captain Vance, however, refused to accept such terms, arguing that humanity had earned its place among the stars and would not be relegated to a subordinate role. The negotiations dragged on for days, with neither side willing to budge. Ambassador Zolek grew increasingly frustrated, resorting to threats and intimidation in an effort to force the humans to capitulate. But Captain Vance remained steadfast, her resolve unwavering in the face of the alien pressure. As the talks reached a critical juncture, rumors began to circulate of a growing rift within the Alien Alliance. Some of the member races, impressed by humanity's strength and resolve, began to question the wisdom of opposing them, arguing that it would be better to seek a more cooperative relationship. Others, however, remained firmly opposed, seeing humanity as a threat to their own power and influence. Ambassador Zolek, sensing the growing divisions within his own ranks, knew that he had to act quickly. In a last-ditch effort to force the humans to comply, he threatened to launch a full-scale invasion of Earth, using the combined might of the Alien Alliance to crush humanity once and for all. But Captain Vance, ever the brilliant strategist, had anticipated such a move. In a daring gambit, she revealed that humanity had been secretly developing its own advanced weapons and technologies, far beyond anything the Alien Alliance had ever seen. She warned Ambassador Zolek that any attempt to invade Earth would be met with a devastating response, one that would leave the Alien Alliance in ruins. Faced with the prospect of a costly and potentially devastating war, Ambassador Zolek was forced to back down. In a tense and dramatic final negotiating session, he agreed to a compromise deal that recognized humanity's right to expand and develop, while also establishing a framework for cooperation and mutual respect between the human and alien races. The agreement was hailed as a triumph for humanity, a vindication of their strength and resolve in the face of overwhelming odds. Captain Vance, now more than ever, was celebrated as a hero, the one who had stood up to the Alien Alliance and secured humanity's place among the stars. But even as the humans celebrated their victory, they knew that the struggle was far from over. The Alien Alliance, though weakened and divided, still posed a formidable threat, and there were many within its ranks who would stop at nothing to see humanity destroyed. And so, as the galaxy watched with bated breath, humanity prepared for the challenges ahead, secure in the knowledge that they had the strength, the courage, and the determination to face whatever the future might bring. The road ahead would be long and hard, but with heroes like Captain Vance leading the way, there was nothing that humanity could not achieve. As the dust settled following the historic negotiations between humanity and the Alien Alliance, a sense of unease began to spread throughout the galaxy. While the official stance of the Alliance was one of cooperation and mutual respect, there were whispers of discontent among certain factions who remained deeply opposed to the idea of human expansion and empowerment. One such faction was a secretive cabal of alien leaders known as the Shadow Council. Made up of representatives from some of the most powerful and influential races in the Alliance, the Shadow Council had long been a driving force behind the Alliance's efforts to contain and control humanity. Now, with their plans thwarted by Captain Vance and her team, they began to plot and scheme, determined to find a way to undermine the newfound human-alien partnership. As the weeks passed, strange and disturbing reports began to filter back to Earth. Human colonies on the fringes of known space were being attacked and destroyed, their inhabitants slaughtered or taken prisoner by unknown assailants. At first, the incidents were dismissed as the work of pirates or rogue elements, but as the attacks grew more frequent and more brutal, it became clear that something more sinister was at work. Captain Vance, now serving as a senior advisor to the Earth Defense Council, knew that she had to act fast. With a small but highly skilled team of human and alien operatives, she set out to investigate the attacks and uncover the truth behind the Shadow Council's plot. As they delved deeper into the mystery, Captain Vance and her team began to uncover a web of deceit and betrayal that stretched across the galaxy. They discovered that the Shadow Council had been secretly funding and arming a splinter faction of extremist aliens known as the Purifiers, who were dedicated to the eradication of all human life. The Purifiers, led by a charismatic and ruthless warlord named Zarek, had been carrying out the attacks on human colonies as part of a larger plan to weaken and demoralize humanity, paving the way for a full-scale invasion of Earth. With the help of the Shadow Council, they had managed to acquire a terrifying array of advanced weapons and technologies, including a fleet of heavily armed warships that rivaled anything in the human arsenal. Faced with this new and terrifying threat, Captain Vance knew that she had to act fast. With time running out and the fate of humanity hanging in the balance, she and her team launched a daring mission to infiltrate the Purifier's main base of operations, a heavily fortified space station hidden in the depths of an uncharted nebula. The mission was fraught with danger and uncertainty, as Captain Vance and her team battled their way through hordes of heavily armed Purifier soldiers and deadly automated defenses. But with courage, skill, and a healthy dose of luck, they managed to fight their way to the heart of the base, where they confronted Zarek and his inner circle in a final desperate showdown. In the end, it was Captain Vance who struck the decisive blow, taking down Zarek in a fierce hand-to-hand battle that left the warlord dead and his followers in disarray. With the Purifier threat neutralized and the Shadow Council's plot exposed, the galaxy breathed a collective sigh of relief, knowing that humanity and its allies had once again triumphed over the forces of darkness. But even as the celebrations began, Captain Vance knew that the fight was far from over. The Shadow Council, though weakened and exposed, still posed a significant threat, and there were sure to be other challenges and dangers waiting in the shadows, ready to test humanity's resolve and strength. And so, as the galaxy watched in awe and admiration, Captain Vance and her team stood tall, ready to face whatever the future might bring. They had proven themselves to be true heroes, willing to risk everything to defend the cause of freedom and justice, and they would not rest until the galaxy was safe and secure for all its inhabitants, human and alien alike. With the Shadow Council's plot exposed and the Purifier threat neutralized, the galaxy entered a new era of cooperation and harmony. The Alien Alliance, chastened by the revelation of the Shadow Council's treachery, began to work more closely with humanity, sharing knowledge and resources in a spirit of mutual respect and understanding. At the forefront of this new era was Captain Ilara Vance, now hailed as a hero not just by humanity, but by the entire galactic community. Her bravery, skill, and unwavering dedication to the cause of peace and justice had earned her the admiration and respect of all who knew her, and she was widely seen as a symbol of the best that humanity had to offer. As the weeks and months passed, Captain Vance and her team continued to work tirelessly to promote cooperation and understanding between humanity and the alien races. They negotiated trade agreements, brokered peace treaties, and worked to resolve conflicts and disputes wherever they arose. But even as the galaxy enjoyed a newfound sense of stability and prosperity, there were still those who sought to undermine the fragile peace. The remnants of the Shadow Council, though weakened and scattered, still posed a threat, and there were other factions and groups who resented humanity's growing influence and power. One such group was a mysterious organization known only as the Void Collective. Little was known about this shadowy cabal, But rumors and whispers spoke of a powerful and ancient race of aliens who had long been thought extinct, but who had somehow survived in the darkest reaches of space. According to the rumors, the Void Collective was obsessed with the idea of transcending the limitations of physical existence, and they believed that the key to achieving this goal lay in the acquisition of advanced technology and the manipulation of the fundamental forces of the universe. As Captain Vance and her team began to investigate the Void Collective, they quickly realized that they were dealing with a threat unlike any they had faced before. The Collective's agents were highly skilled and ruthless, and they seemed to possess technology and abilities that defied explanation. But Captain Vance was not one to back down from a challenge, and she and her team threw themselves into the fight with all the courage and determination they could muster. They tracked the Collective's agents across the galaxy, from the glittering spires of alien citadels to the dark and twisted depths of abandoned space hulks. Along the way, they uncovered a web of secrets and lies that stretched back centuries, and they began to realize that the Void Collective's plan was far more ambitious and terrifying than they had ever imagined. In a desperate race against time, Captain Vance and her team battled their way through hordes of Collective soldiers and automated defenses, fighting to stop the Collective's plan before it could come to fruition. In the end, it was Captain Vance who made the final fateful decision. With the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance, she chose to sacrifice herself, plunging into the heart of the Collective's stronghold and detonating a massive explosive device that tore the facility apart and scattered the Collective's forces to the winds. Though Captain Vance was lost, her sacrifice was not in vain. The Void Collective was defeated, and the galaxy was saved from a terrible fate. And in the years that followed, the legend of Ilara Vance only grew as people across the galaxy remembered her courage, her selflessness, and her unwavering commitment to the cause of peace and justice. The galaxy would never forget the debt it owed to Captain Vance and her team, and their legacy would endure for generations to come. And though the future was sure to bring new challenges and dangers, the people of the galaxy knew that they could face them with courage and resolve, just as Captain Vance had taught them. For in the end, the true measure of a hero was not the strength of their arms or the power of their weapons, but the strength of their heart and the depth of their commitment to the greater good. And in that regard, Captain Ilara Vance would always be remembered as one of the greatest heroes the galaxy had ever known. Years had passed since the galaxy-defining events that saw the rise of humanity as a major power on the galactic stage. The sacrifices made by Captain Ilara Vance and her team had become the stuff of legend, inspiring countless generations to strive for a better, more united future. Among those inspired by the tales of Captain Vance was a young woman named Aria Jackson. Born on Earth, Aria had grown up hearing stories of the brave men and women who had fought to defend humanity's place among the stars. From a young age, she had known that she wanted to follow in their footsteps, to become a leader and a hero in her own right. As Aria grew older, she threw herself into her studies, excelling in every subject from astrophysics to xenobiology. She enlisted in the Earth Defense Force, quickly rising through the ranks thanks to her keen intellect, unwavering determination, and natural leadership abilities. By the time she reached the rank of Admiral, Aria Jackson was widely regarded as one of the most brilliant and capable military leaders of her generation. She had a reputation for thinking outside the box, for finding creative solutions to even the most intractable problems, and for inspiring fierce loyalty in those under her command. As she took command of the Earth Defense Fleet, Admiral Jackson knew that she had big shoes to fill. The legacy of Captain Vance loomed large, and there were some who doubted whether anyone could ever live up to her example. But Admiral Jackson was not one to be intimidated by the weight of history. She knew that the galaxy was still a dangerous place, full of new and unpredictable threats that could emerge at any moment. And she was determined to do whatever it took to keep humanity and its allies safe. As she set about her work, Admiral Jackson began to realize that the galaxy had changed in the years since Captain Vance's time. New alliances had formed, new powers had emerged, and new tensions had begun to simmer beneath the surface. One of the most significant changes was the rise of a new alien race known as the Zephyri. The Zephyri were a highly advanced and enigmatic species, known for their mastery of biotechnology and their ability to manipulate living matter at the molecular level. At first, the Zephyri seemed to be a valuable ally, sharing their knowledge and expertise with humanity and the other races of the galaxy. But as time went on, Admiral Jackson began to suspect that the Zephyri had their own agenda, one that might not align with the interests of the galactic community as a whole. As she dug deeper, Admiral Jackson uncovered evidence of a vast conspiracy involving the Zephyri and a shadowy cable of alien warlords and crime syndicates. The conspiracy seemed to center around a mysterious artifact known only as the Nexus, an ancient and incredibly powerful device that was said to hold the key to ultimate knowledge and power. Determined to unravel the mystery and stop the conspiracy before it could plunge the galaxy into chaos, Admiral Jackson assembled a team of the best and brightest minds from across the galaxy. Together, they set out on a desperate mission to track down the Nexus and uncover the truth behind the Zephyri's plans. The mission was fraught with danger and uncertainty, as Admiral Jackson and her team battled their way through hostile alien worlds and faced down powerful enemies at every turn. But through their courage, their ingenuity, and their unwavering commitment to the greater good, they managed to prevail. In the end, Admiral Jackson and her team succeeded in stopping the Zephyri's plans and securing the Nexus, ensuring that its power would never fall into the wrong hands. And though the galaxy would never be the same, the people of the galaxy knew that they had a new hero to look up to, a leader who embodied the same spirit of courage and selflessness that had made Captain Vance a legend. As Admiral Jackson looked out across the stars, she knew that the future was full of both promise and peril. But she also knew that as long as there were those willing to stand up for what was right, to fight for justice and freedom and unity, the galaxy would always have hope. And with that knowledge, she set out to lead the galaxy into a new era of peace and prosperity, ready to face whatever challenges the future might bring.